So obviously, hello to the two of you. Just to give you some idea, so why am I here and delivering this? I have a background in e-business. So I help companies understand where technology can fit across the whole organization. I've been doing that for around 20 years. Before that, I was in data management, CAD systems and implementation of those for a company that went all across Europe. So technology and where it fits in the business is very much where I spend my time. I run my own agency, helping companies exploit digital. So a lot of the work I do on a digital catalyst program is around helping companies understand their online presence, how to get better search position, understanding the data that's collected through marketing campaigns, paid advertising, social media, etc. But I also can go and advise around customer relationship management systems, technology networks, and internet access. And so a bag of all tricks, really. Today on communication, I'll bring some information from research, as well as then talking about various projects and things that I've been involved with and the tools we're using to manage those. Some of them you may have come across, some of them you may not have. Okay, I'm going to start by asking you both this question. On a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is good, how well does your business communicate to itself and to external customers?
I'd say for us, obviously, Age UK Lancashire is quite a large business. I work in a small part of it. I would say that communications actually got better during lockdown in some ways. Before lockdown, it was very much, you know, office based and you wouldn't know everybody in the organisation. But during lockdown, we used Workplace a lot to share information and whatever. So I'd say internally it's got better. Externally, I'm not so sure. I mean, we used to have, you know, we used to have front desk receptions where people could come in off the street. All that's gone, and I don't think that's coming back.
Okay, yeah.
So with customers, I don't think the communications is good. With external businesses, I'm thinking it's probably the same as it always has been. More reliance on online meetings than face-to-face.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe a 7.
Okay. Yeah. On new internals and external?
I'd say 7. That would be internal.
Yeah.
External, maybe a 5 or 6.
Okay. So I would imagine with your customer demographic, okay, the loss of that face-to-face, drop-in centers and reception desks and all of that, that's probably a negative with the actual customer base.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
And yeah, these are things we have to think about with our push as organizations to move to embracing technology, virtual working. Is it at the detriment of the customer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, okay, Craig, what would you say about where you are working?
I'd say the opposite, actually. I mean, our customer communication has to be good. So it's sort of, we've learned the hard way to focus on that. Maybe we were focused on that to the detriment of our internal communication.
Yeah.
So when things happen, when there's like a reorganization or when there's sort of big changes, you'll have some communication, but then it's not, say, so well followed up on, or once they've sort of made the initial image or vision, that there isn't this further follow up just to make sure, okay, was it fully understood as intended, and is everyone doing what was expected? So I'd say probably externally, we have issues, of course,
Yep.
in communicating with our customers, but probably a 7 or an 8.
Yeah.
Internally, though, maybe as low as a 3 or a 4.
Yeah. So it's the complete opposite
Yeah.
to where Abby's
Yeah.
at. And both sides of it are extremely important, because at the end of the day, poor communication on an internal perspective causes a lot of issues inside a business. So one of the main things we usually hear is, oh, we're always the last to know. There's been a reshuffle, but why has it happened? Oh, this person's gone into that job. Why? Or why are we doing this? And it's because it's just filtered down, but nobody's actually thought about communicating it effectively. Now, poor communication in terms of business, okay, contributes to a couple, well, quite a few factors. You know, the biggest one is stress. We change a process, we change how something works, we implement a new system. And straight away, people can start to see technology is now being used to perhaps remove something that we had. Is that removing my job? Is that removing a perk that I used to have, but is no longer there? So many years ago, I worked on a collaboration project across Europe designing cars. So I was working with Fiat, Rover at the time. So this is going back to 1996. And the engineers there, we were using exactly what we've got now. So we've got the ability to share an application. We've got video, we've got audio, we've got whiteboards so we can draw and annotate images and discuss in real time without having to leave the office, but doing that from the UK into Northern Italy. And the implementation of technology caused an enormous amount of stress around losing the benefits that the engineers had when they got in their cars and they drove to see a client, or they got on a plane to go and see a client. So we need to be able to communicate effectively as to why we are going to work a different way. Failure to complete projects. I don't know what tools you're using to manage projects. What tools have you got in place for project management? That's a question to either of you.
We've got 2 aspects. We for our ERP system to link into that so the part data management aspect, we're using a tool called PLM by Dassault Systems.
Yeah, I know that one.
And yeah, I think if you're working with Peugeot Rover, then yeah, definitely you'd know that.
Yeah.
For the project management aspect, and certainly for the systems and software development, we're using a tool called Codebeamer.
Okay.
Which is an ALM, an applications lifecycle management tool.
Yeah.
For our general communication, we're using MS Teams. You know, Microsoft being, of course, the preferred the preferred standard in big companies. So Teams, MS Teams, and the SharePoint, OneDrive, all that suite
all that type of stuff to collaborate and share.
Yeah, exactly.
Good. Yeah,
got much better the last year and a half to 2 years. I think they've been forced to really catch up.
Yeah,
but they weren't good before.
No, they have, and this is the problem. I think the pandemic pushed us into having to work differently. Now, the good thing is the vast majority of companies have gone out there and it's been hard and it's been different and it's been a struggle. But the vast majority of companies have actually got ahead and they've done it, which has brought collaboration tools, project management tools to help us share information. Is brought that a lot further forward. And Zoom, Teams, everybody, you know, Teams pretty much now every week there's a new feature being rolled in. So staying on top of all of that becomes an issue. But stress is in there. Abby, are you using anything for project management?
We do use, like Craig, we use all the Microsoft. We did used to have like a remote server that we would access. And then that's recently all gone on to SharePoint, which has caused a lot of confusion for some people. They're sort of editing documents, not realizing that other people couldn't see, and all that kind of data protection issues. We use Teams a lot for meetings, but I use Zoom for certain meetings because I find it easier to share screens on Zoom. We've got our workplace, and we've got Charity Log, which is our sort of customer database.
The CRM system,
But and email a lot.
And email a lot. Okay, we'll come on to that later. So, you know, poor communication has a knock-on effect. We've got to be able to enable people to share and work as if they were sat in an office next to somebody. Technology and not knowing what's happening in the business and why brings about stress. Not being able to get access to the information means we can fail against completing the project on time. Now in businesses, we can lose leads, so loss of sales, and there's lots of factors that come in. So we need to be improving how we communicate. Now, I don't know which generation you fit into, but lots of research has been done around the technologies that the different generations use. Obviously, your customers, Abby, they probably are.
Yeah, most of them are the silent generation.
Yeah, they like the face-to-face.
Yeah. Using
technology to message and communicate in something like WhatsApp is probably something that isn't their norm. Getting on a phone and having a call or going and seeing somebody is. But think about this in terms of your business. So people internally within the organization. So trying to get somebody who's a baby boomer, trying to work effectively on a project with somebody who's Generation Y or Generation Z.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a colleague who's recently retired, left basically because before lockdown, she was sat next to me in an office and she was always asking me for help doing things. She was approaching 60, wasn't confident on a computer. And then with us all working from home, she would try and go into the office, but there just wasn't anybody ever around or had the time to help her. So she's gone.
Yeah. We've exactly the same situation. I do some work at a university, and one of the guys there on staff who I work very closely with, because the universities have decided that going forward, we're going to blend the learning experience, whatever that means in their terms, and not do as much face-to-face and engaging and getting to know the students. He's decided that's not for him. Because he likes the personal. The last 18 months have been a nightmare. It's been a struggle because we're trying to communicate to students and get them to do something through the screen and through the camera. And unlike you, students don't turn their cameras on.
Right.
So we can't even see them. They're just present. Or the computer says they're present, but in reality, they've gone off to do something else and just logged into the lectures.
Yeah.
But this becomes an issue in organizations. There was an article came out some years ago, the difference between Generation Y, Generation Z, and how they handle communicating to customers. So whereas somebody who's a baby boomer or Generation X, probably into the realms of they will phone customers, they will go and see customers. If they need to know something, well, they'll just go and phone. As we move into the Generation Y, there's probably more of a tendency to drop to email to contact somebody.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
When a Generation Z, the typical view there is, well, have you got in touch with the client? Have you got in touch with the customer? Have you got in touch with this department? And the answer will be, well, I've messaged them on Messenger, I've dropped them something on WhatsApp, and I pinged them on LinkedIn. And they haven't responded. but it could be you're trying to reach somebody who's in a different generation, who actually checking their emails every day or checking what's happening on LinkedIn is not something that's high on their agenda.
Yeah.
So we have to be able to mold all of this. Again, it comes back to what is the strategy and the reasoning that you are telling the organization that they need to actually, why they need to do this. Where does it fit into our overall strategies? Have you found that, Craig?
Yeah, not just the generational. I'm dealing with a lot of different countries as well, and
Yeah.
they have their own sort of preferences. China is WeChat. It's incredible. Thailand uses like Line.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll talk to the customers on China. People that I'm working with will talk with the customers on WeChat. They'll make agreements which are sort of commercially binding on WeChat, and do all these other things there that we were thinking, this is crazy. You know, you need that documented, you need that written down, you need some kind of formal signature, because you're making some pricing agreement, or you're doing some kind of scope change on the project. You know, this needs to be a formal change request from the customer.
And it's you know, the amalgamating that into your normal working practices. It's like, well, we just don't do it that way. So if we look at tools we use, we're using typically we're using all of this these days. Some have reduced dramatically. We're getting video conferencing obviously now. Now, just a question to both of you. The organizations you're working with, do you think video conferencing will stay as prevalent, or when people start coming back to the office, we'll see it diminishing?
I think it'll stay for us because we're quite a large county, and it just makes it so much easier a lot of the time to have a meeting if you've got people based in different areas, and trying to agree a place to meet face to face. Locally, in our local teams, we will go back to face because nothing beats a face to face meeting. But when you're looking at like management meetings and stuff, you know, they probably used to cost money, hiring a venue for the whole day or something.
But what you're
catering.
Doing,
now we don't have that.
You're taking, for the higher management meetings, you're taking out their get together, their jolly, their free lunch, their glass of wine, and their travel expenses. And if it's a distance, I get to stay over as well.
Yeah, I mean, they must be saving themselves money, the company.
They must be. The University of Warwick saved a lot of money last year because they had more students than they expected. So they're giving every member of staff a £1,000 payment on what they saved.
Wow.
Nice. We've been able to...
Go on, Craig.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say we've been able to close a couple of offices and close a couple of floors in our main office here in Japan because we don't need that space anymore.
Yeah.
Which sort of begs the question, what's going to happen to these downtown areas when, as other companies continue to not have their people come in? All of those restaurants and shops and everything else that were sort of reliant on those workers being there and buying stuff. I think it's going to be a shift for more than just the companies themselves, but for the wider. And
it's a knock on. A lot of I've got a friend who works in retail, works in business leasing for properties and negotiating lease deals. And from what he's seeing is the amount of plans that are going on to convert the offices into residential units. So that will be an interesting one. If you go to anywhere in the UK that's got a university, nearly every single available slot is taken by students. So they're putting up brand new halls of residence. If you mix Coventry and then you bring Jaguar Land Rover into it, JLR and the students fill up nearly all of the B&Bs and rental properties, because there's that many people that need to stay somewhere. The university 2 years ago were putting students up in B&Bs in central Birmingham, but they were having to travel to Warwick every day to get their lectures because there's no space. So it'll be interesting to see if all these nice office blocks start to be converted effectively. But we have a mix of tools. Now, looking across the generations, coming back to the previous slide, okay, we can see the differences in how the levels where people use the different tool sets. Okay, 1/3 of millennials and Gen Xers used instant messaging every day in the past year to communicate. 12% of baby boomers reported a similar trend. Different age groups will use different tools. Now, in a business sense, and I think this is probably something that relates to Craig here, the fact that they're signing contracts online or in WeChat and they're having discussions within these tools, that moves what typically we'd be doing on a Teams meeting or put into a SharePoint server or logging it in our project management tool against a task. We're missing that because the communication is somewhere else, which causes a big problem. Now, you're using Teams. How well do you find the chat mechanism in Teams? In terms of, I know Abby sent me a message about that, but finding it and going back to it, the same on a messenger or a WhatsApp thread, locating information that's important in the thread. Is that a pain?
It's not easy. I mean, I email my team most of all. Sometimes I will put something if I'm trying to have like a very quick conversation. I don't want emails back and two. I'll do it on Teams and I'll tag the names, but I'm not convinced, unless they're just ignoring me, that they ever really go there.
They're never logged in.
Because you can turn notifications off. So I'm not sure. And there's different channels within Teams, isn't there? And a lot of people find Teams really confusing to find files, and I get on with it quite well, but it doesn't help if nobody else uses it to its full potential. So yeah.
Okay. So communication, lack of it, miscommunication becomes an enormous issue. We have company to employees, etc. Okay. The biggest problem where people feel dissatisfied in a role is typically focused to, we're not paid enough, we're overworked, and we don't know what's happening. We don't know where we fit. Communication styles can have a big impact. So if you're working for somebody now, obviously, Craig, are you both aware of Hofstede?
Hofstede. Oh yeah. The cultural,
the cultural investigation based on IT technology people. And communication style can cause big problems, and definitely in cultural situations it's a key factor to understanding, okay, what's being said here because of the culture that I am working with. So if we take the Chinese culture, for instance, they will never question you if you are senior in business. So they can be in a meeting, totally disagree with what you're saying, and in the meeting say, that's a great idea, yeah, we've got it and we're clear. But in reality, they don't understand it, they haven't got it, but because of the seniority, they will not question. if we go into India, so I'm working on a project with some Indian coders at the moment, and they will say yes, yes, yes to everything. But in reality, 50% of it, they have no idea how to do it. But it's, well, James is asking, he's on the project, he's coordinating all the technology. We just always say yes. And then we have to chase them and we have to reiterate, no, we needed it doing in this way. This is what it's meant to work like. This is what we said to you. You said you understood, but you didn't. And communication styles can have a big impact. Okay. Unclear instructions, senior colleagues, okay, cause stress because they don't clarify. They're not clear on exactly what it is. And this is a communication problem. So we've got to educate people to be clear. I've worked on a lot of projects in web where the company is not satisfied with the solution the developer has produced. And typically that's down to the company didn't understand what they wanted at the start, so they weren't able to correctly communicate it to the business. They build what they believe is required, and there's a lack of connection between the two. Now, again, age groups handle this differently. 1/3 of millennials are functional communicators. They base it on function, okay, process, think through, plan step by step, so nothing is missed. Generation X is 15%, 21%, you know, personal, emphasize, analytical. And you will see this and come across this with the people you work with. You know, we've had many different ways of plotting people's personalities. So Myers-Briggs from many years ago. Have you come across though? Have you come across Myers-Briggs? And
I've seen his name today, yeah. On there.
And Belbin, that's another one.
No, Belbin.
Okay, so Myers-Briggs is are you an introvert or an extrovert? Do you plan or do you just, is everything planned? Or do you just go, hey, we've got to get it done by this date, let's just see what happens. You've got people who work on intuition. So it's I and N. Then you got people who are sensing, so they have an emotional attachment to everything, and people who are just thinkers. And we have to, you know, when we work with people in teams, we have to start to ISTJ, introvert, sensing, thinking, and judging.
Oh, I need to do one of these. I haven't done one of these in years.
Yeah, they are very good. I am a INTP. So I don't plan. I am a project manager's worst nightmare, because I just say, you want it by that date, it will be done. Don't worry how we get there, it's finished. But these are introverts. So I'm introvert, only just slightly. I can flick between the two, but these are all of these personality profiles are in your natural state when the pressure is on. How do you typically respond? Belbin is are you a planter, a finisher, and things like this. There's lots of free things you can do online to fill these in. And it's how would you naturally respond? Now, obviously, in terms of a business, if we're thinking about communication and also leading teams, team leaders ideally need to be able to understand somebody else's personality makeup to then work out how to make them feel good about what you're asking them to do. So how do I communicate that to them in order to get them to feel like, yeah, I'm behind this task, I'm behind this project. And it is quite an interesting area to look at. Myers-Briggs, Myers-Briggs is extremely useful if you do it as a team exercise. So you work out what everybody is in the team, so you can see where you're strong. So if we have to have a more of a, how are people going to feel about this, then you can identify the people who can bring that into the mix. They do say that you need 2 introverts to balance out every extrovert in your team. Because
there's only 3 of us in our team. That's...
Well, you just better hope that you're all, you know.
We've just been doing, have you heard of the Insights training? It's based on some Carl Jung model. Yeah. We've just been doing that. So you come out with there's like 4 primary colours, and you come out with a combination of 4 colours. And
the colours one, yeah. There's lots of them around there. Disc is one. Yeah.
I think disc and colours are very similar. Our company used disc as well.
Yeah, and they're all very, very, very similar. But it helps you understand, you know, if I'm in a meeting, your personality can come through, but a lot of us learn how to flex. So with me being introvert, the students at the university cannot believe that I would have any introvert in me at all, because I stand in the front of the class and I lecture them and we mess around and I'm comfortable. But that's purely because I'm in a situation where I'm comfortable with knowledge, that I can communicate that. So I'm not an introvert and I don't go inside my shell. But if you take me to a networking meeting, I will be the one who walks in, goes to get the coffee, stands in the corner waiting until I see somebody I know. I won't go up and talk to somebody just because, well, you know, I don't know them and I'm shy.
Don't like hobnobbing.
Yeah, I don't like hobnobbing. I just don't like talking to people in public. I'm okay through a screen. Okay, so you know, we won't do this, but you know, thinking about how you communicate. Are you a person who thinks about relationships and connections? Okay, do you move more on a functional thing? So it's about process. Do you, when you talk or you're trying to support your point, it's all about the data? Or are you very much, I'm big picture? Because it will govern how you communicate through to people. Well, why is poor communication a problem? Because it makes people doubt. So as soon as we're not being clear in what we're saying across the organization, we can bring in questions in people's minds. You know, you put any technology system in place and people automatically think that their job is at risk. And to be honest, I've seen companies where they bring in a technology solution, ERP, things like that, and people, they end up getting rid of people because now we've got technology in place and we don't need that role. We don't need this function. Responsibility. Okay, you're getting a system to do that. Or this person's joined. Where does it put my position? What am I now responsible for? And we've probably all been in this position. We've all been there with these thoughts going through our head because something has just happened in a business and it hasn't been communicated as to, well, why are we taking this person on? Why are we reshuffling the organization? Why are we changing the way we operate and work? So all of this adds to people's stress. It causes problems. People lose. And at the end of the day, it turns into rumors, gossip, suspicion, and then resentment for the organization. And we end up with a business culture that is not positive. And people no longer want to be part of the organization. They work just to do their jobs. Okay. You know, we all have this human nature aspect, which is if you say something to me and you're not clear, I have this ability in my brain to start making up the unanswered questions around the things that weren't said, but in my brain has already decided, well, there's a hidden message between those two things. And we've got to learn how to share messages a lot clearer and better. Okay, because again, it comes back to missed deadlines, tasks not accomplished, no clarity, unsure objectives and goals. And just making sure we filter those down. Okay, or other issues that come into place. Employee turnover is a big problem. High turnover, 41% of workers over 50, 20 years with the same employer. Okay. I've been with the University of Warwick for 28 years. So been there, very happy with what I do there. Great place to work. Millennials changed jobs 3 times in 12 months. 25 millennials long-term plans to stay if great. So, you know, there's a different view as we go across the different age groups. Loyalty tends to disappear as people get younger, and that's probably because the culture of the organization isn't feeding what they want. Recent research suggests that millennials, the younger generation, they will take a lower salary in a job if the job offers them the ability to work remote and work from home, because of their life work balance, and they are in control of when they work and not going to an office 9 to 5. So they will offset salary for having something which fits in with their chosen lifestyle. Not being a millennial, I don't know that. Poor communication, okay. Technology is having a drastic effect on communication because, okay, I sent you the message, Craig, is it online? Is it on WeChat? Is it in WhatsApp? Is it in Teams? Is it on an email? I know I've seen it, but I can't remember where it is. Now, email tends to be a default tool. The problem with email is we tend to send email out to everybody. I'm sure you've been on the other end of this, where you're copied into an email, and when you receive it, it's almost like, well, why am I even receiving this? And typically that is because somebody has sent it and they just want as many people to know I sent the email and it's gone into an inbox. It is a default phone call. Typically, I've got people who will send me an email, then phone me up 5 minutes later to check I received the email. So a default, you know, access to non-verbal cues, tone of voice, gestures, visuals to help them understand messages. Because everything we're doing now is typically in a typed form. You've only got to go and watch and go and sit with a bunch of people who are probably 16 to 20 years of age, and none of them are talking to each other. They're all sat typing and sending messages. They're sort of in the room, but not in the room. Okay, we all know that most communication is non-verbal. What somebody is doing is presenting, so the body language aspect. We won't do that. Hopefully this video plays the audio. It's to show you non-verbal cues.
My screen's gone completely black.
Okay.
I can't see
Mine's,
anything.
oh, for me, it was working. It was playing okay in the sounds.
Okay.
Strange.
Hey, and here.
And you've got two screens, Abby. It's not on either of them. It's gone completely black. Let me go back a slide and then let me come back into it and let me play it. Still black. Yeah. You're on mute now. You're still on mute. Still there? You've muted yourself completely.
Right, my screen's come back on now.
Okay, all right. So you've got the
Yeah, I can
kid
see the
space.
kid.
Okay, all right.
What can I get started for you today? What's that? All right. 3 venti lattes. Would you care for a pastry? Nope. Mocha. 3 mocha lattes. Double chocolate chip muffin. Go. You have 3 Paul McCartney CDs. Awesome. I love the Beatles. They are like assassination. Abraham Lincoln. Gun. Shoot. 3 shots. So, 3 lattes, 3 mochas, double chocolate chip muffin, and 3 shots. No assassinations. Oh, and 3 Paul McCartney CDs. It's gonna be 68-12.
Okay, so short video. A lot of us communicate with our hands. We will make gestures, we will do faces, body language, how we position ourselves, cross our legs, fold our arms, look bored, look interested. All of this portrays something which somebody else is reading. And we've got to get a lot better at doing that, especially in online meetings, where we see each other, trying to use gestures, movements to actually help support what is being seen on a screen. All these companies have written articles and put out information that they have learned how do we work remotely and keep the communication across the teams and our projects working successfully. Some of the key points from what they've shared. Okay, first one is keeping people connected and productive is communication, making sure everybody is joined together. Companies like Trello, the lady who runs the marketing team at Trello, she makes it a point, everybody in that team works remotely. So she makes a point of catching up with every team member on a one-to-one just to see how they're doing on a weekly basis. She will have smaller meetings with the team, but she will put these in as well just to make sure everybody is happy, checking where they're at the moment. And at the moment, we have a big push on mental health and stress in the workplace. So communication, as already, poor communication adds to stress. So in order to keep our remote teams working well, we've got to make sure that communication is in there and catching up with people. Remote environments, people who don't communicate don't exist. They disappear. They become quiet. So again, we need to be making sure we're engaging. If you are running a team, engaging with all the members. So they may be present on a call, but not actually saying anything or doing anything. And that's an onus on a team leader to then go and reach out and just see where they're at. Communicate, say synchronous, something that came out of it, face-to-face meetings online. Okay, and giving credit to people in online meetings where the credit is due because of something they've done that's helped to move the project on. That also builds rapport. The person feels wanted and actually now starts to become feeling more of part of a team. You need to be present with teams and available to be contacted. So with the university work, when we're working with students and working with the other tutors, my Teams is on all the time, even if I'm not doing any university work that day. So people can contact me, we can chat about a problem, we can sort out an issue. You need to have an open door, clear communications. Okay, team members should be encouraged to express opinions. Now, bear in mind, we're working across a video. I can see a face in a meeting. I can see how they are responding by the reactions they're having. But if nothing is said, that has to be a follow-up. Oh, I noticed this, you didn't seem very happy, or you were very quiet in that meeting. Have you got some points? And it means as team leaders, we've got to be a lot better at communicating and working with our team members, or else the team starts to get disparate, people drop away, they drop to the edge, they don't exist, and then your ability to handle and manage a project now becomes a lot harder because you don't know if that person is engaged or not. Whereas we're in the room with you in the same office, it's very easy to go across and talk to them and bounce ideas off. Okay, one of them, to be most successful, over communicate. So Abby, you said that your internal communication has improved over lockdown. It's a lot better now. Now, it might be, some people feel it's over communication. We have a lot more meetings. I know at the university, the internal teams have a lot more meetings because obviously they're not going between offices or buildings and various bits and pieces like that. So they can actually just come off one meeting and go straight on another one. I don't know when we're actually meant to do any work because we're forever in meetings with people, but you know, remote employees over communicating to them, which sounds like your internal comms has got better.
Yeah.
Probably because you are meeting more often, because it's a lot more practical to do it using the technology. And Craig's has gone the other way. They're communicating to their customers a lot more, but not sharing within the business. I think, you know, this here, I think all of us, we need to communicate better. Even if our internal comms has gone up, it's thinking more about, well, what are we actually communicating and sharing? Is it positive? Are we engaging with the team? Are we bringing them in? Are we looking out for people? Okay, so we're going to take a quick look at communications and managing projects. So the managing project sides. Okay, in this remote world, these are the three areas we have to work with. We have to be able to collaborate. We have to be able to communicate, and we have to be able to connect. Now, connection is the easy one. That's the physical cable. That's how are we joining? How are we connecting our systems, computers, our offices together? Connection, quality of connection governs the quality of the communication. Sure, you've been on calls with people where their broadband is dropping in and out. You can't hear them clearly. They end up turning their video off because their bandwidth is poor, and the quality of the meeting and the ability to work as a team starts to diminish because this person's sort of there but not there. Communication and collaborate, okay, these two, all three are required. Most important one is if I can't connect to you, we cannot do either of the other two. It's very, very hard. Now, tools we use, email. So Abby, you said you're using email.
Yeah, a lot. I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
Email, to be honest, email is the mainstay of communication because it's been around a long, long time. First email was sent, any idea?
93.
I guess it must have been the English guy in CERN who set up their internal web before the internet
Tim
existed.
Berners-Lee.
Tim Berners-Lee, yeah, exactly. Must have been.
It is around 93. So that's the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
Two computers communicating with each other was when? Is it older or younger than me?
Older.
Well, two computers communicate. That was after. That was the US doing it from the universities as part of the DARPA, wasn't it?
DARPA, yeah, 1969.
69, yeah.
Okay, that is older than me, Abby. You are correct. Only just. Okay. Email is about 1971. It is a go-to tool for all of us because we trust it. We write it, we send it, we expect it to be delivered. Today, a lot of it goes in spam, but we expect it to be delivered. Now, in terms of remote working, online meetings, email is actually a trap for distraction because we have two screens open on our computers and we're doing one thing on one and we're doing something else on the other. It takes us away. It can be an enormous tool to loss of productivity. Irvine study, momentum, it takes 20 minutes to get back into the flow of something once we're interrupted. So when that email ping goes off or the little flag comes up in the bottom of your screen, it's a natural distraction. For me, it's a really bad distraction because usually I'm sat doing something on my computer, like marking students or doing some boring paperwork. And it's a distraction to ease me away from something I don't want to do, to then go and deal with an email that's just come in. Multitasking is a myth. Our brains don't multitask. We get distracted and then it takes time to recover to go back to what we were doing before. Email in today's age, I would say it's the tool most of us use to communicate, but actually with message boards, with SharePoint folders, with WhatsApp and all of these different messaging tools, it's probably a really poor communication tool. And definitely when we get into reviewing of documents, where people send a document round to 10 people, and then they all respond with their changes attached. And now you've got 10 different versions of the one document. Hence why we use tools like SharePoint and Teams and Google Drive and Dropbox, where we can, you know, Teams and that co-collaboration to create the document together at the same time is a brilliant tool set. So email is something we fall back on, but with the technologies we have today, there's much better ways to collaborate with teams. It's quite interesting at the university when we're doing a lecture and we've got students in the class and we've got students online. The students in the class will still be logged into Teams and in the session that we're running face to face with them. One, because they can interact with the other students online through chat, but they can also, because most of them are foreign students, they can also turn on the subtitles and get the text that we are speaking onto their screen, and it helps them understand and bring context. Okay, instant messaging, which I'm pretty sure we all use personally as well as in business. Okay, instant messaging works, and I think you said this, Abby. Okay, if you want to do it quick and get something out there, it's a fast way to put that in front of somebody's eyes. Quick questions or requests you typically ask someone in the office. What do you think about this? Blah, blah, blah. Should we do this, etc. Okay, exchanging files, important links, company-wide memos means it's harder to find because it's which chat was it in, which group was it in, which channel in Teams was it on. So sharing documents and links and important information, we need to be doing that a different way. Obviously, task and project management tools. You've got your Code Beamer, Craig, and your product lifecycle management tool have some of this in there. Okay. Relevant files, assign roles, and project updates. So this is assigning out tasks to people, and there's lots of different tools out there. Craig's, they've got, you know, ERP, Code Beamer, larger tool sets, but simple tools like Trello, let's do a free one. Trello is a task management piece of software. So it gives us the ability to create, let me just log into one so I can show you. I can't show you, it won't let me log in Trello. Let me just get Trello up so I can show you what it does if you haven't seen it before. Okay, so Trello, just simple team space, invited guests, gives us the ability to have boards to do, doing, done, and then we can assign off the tasks to people within the team, and they have the ability to move it from one board to the next. Each of these is classed as a card. You can ask people to vote. You can attach documents. You can set dates when tasks have got to be done. So it's a nice, simple Kanban is the technical word approach to handling tasks within a simple project. So a nice, easy tool for businesses to get started with bringing in some level of structure.
That would be good for us because basically we don't have anything like that. So I'm emailing my team all the time thinking, oh, I need to tell them this. And I think I'm not even sure that they remember half the emails because things never change, and then I send the same email, and I think this is falling on deaf ears.
Yeah, if I can get into one, James.Pennington.
Like within my emails, I have loads of folders. I know how to search to find things. I find it helpful for me to use email, but obviously some people, well, I've seen some people's inboxes at work and they just don't read half their emails. Or
Yeah, and this is the problem we're up against. Have they missed a task because of how we've communicated it across? So this is, okay, so this is a Trello board, just so you can see how one works. So this is for not that board. Okay, I don't want that one. Let's choose a different board. Okay, development has something in. Okay, so we have tasks we assign off to the coder on to do. He drags it from here to there when it becomes in progress, and then he asks us questions back, and then things to discuss, and then once it goes from here, we would just archive it off, but we could have a done, finished, closed column. But simple things. So this one here, so here, square feet anomaly, check the fees for square footage, blah, 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 asking me what do I think, display across the site, and then he's coming with, well, this is what we're getting in the feeds. So then we can decide what we're doing in relation to that inside the project. They have boards that can get you started, so you don't even have to think about, well, what boards do I need? You can use a template to drive it. But a nice, simple, easy way to work with a remote team and keep track of those simple little tasks. A tool that task and project management, and I don't know if you've come across this one. Have you still got my screen? Have you got my screen still?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is Slack. So Slack links with Trello. Okay. So Slack is a message board. They're both private. They're both private board. They're both private secure spaces, but we have channels in here. So if I flick into the ops channel, okay, we're talking, this is just the ops team with certain members in, talking about changes. So this effectively is a WhatsApp or a WeChat or a Teams chat. And these are the issues we have. There's so many tools today. If we have lots of them, we've got people doing lots of different things in different areas, which causes us even bigger issues with, well, where is that message? So Slack, again, is a free tool. So easy to sign up. You can integrate it to Trello. And they're tools to get people moving and started with communication and collaboration. I think, Craig, you've got tools in place that are big industry standard tool sets.
Yeah, exactly. Our IT policy is sort of preventing us from using these online ones where they store all of the data on their servers.
Yeah,
because of the work that we do and sort of the IP concerns. So we're sort of limited to the more big commercial.
Yeah, the more commercial ones, and keeping it in Teams and all that type of stuff. and then
Yeah, exactly.
your Chinese partners go and sign the contract
Go
and do a
and
deal over what WeChat.
WeChat, which is being completely monitored by the I'd
Chinese
probably stop
government.
there. Yeah. I should best stop there. Yeah. No comments about all of that.
Well, that was one of the big issues with Zoom. One of the
Mm,
big issues with Zoom was the calls were being routed. So you could call someone from the UK and call somebody in America, and your call was actually being routed via Chinese nodes
mm,
initially. So they've had to do a lot of that, and then the encryption end to end on all these tools to make the call secure. It wasn't fully encrypted at the endpoints. So they've had to do a lot to get all of the tool sets up to standards that businesses would expect. So document creation, obviously teams and the ability to do the joint creations inside the Word products, okay, and collaborate and create together. Again, if we want to facilitate effective online meetings where we collaborate and we are working as a team, we have to recreate exactly what we would have if we were coming together in a room physically to do it. Now, luckily, all of the tools have stepped up and given us the ability to do that. Video conferencing, okay, working out processes, problems, brainstorming, face-to-face conversations are a better way to understand the tone somebody is delivering it and ability to see. Now, face-to-face meetings and video conferencing, from research I was involved with in automotive, the only point of the video in the meeting was to see the other person and say hello. Because once we're past that initial interaction, the meeting turns to discussing a technical drawing or discussing a specification, and we're using shared documents, we're using annotations, and we're drawing on the screen. Different types of meetings require different levels of the tools. So if it's a team meeting where you're discussing strategy and things like that, you're probably going to be in and out of video, but in and out of sharing tools to the screen and documents. Okay, we have to find ways to make sure that our remote teams do not miss the in-person connections that offices create. So talking to our student office team, the in-person meetings that would happen inside the office, we wander in, we ask a question, there's a problem, that is overheard by somebody in the same room who actually needs to be involved in the conversation. But in a Teams environment or an online environment, that is now missed. So all of those little things that used to go on where people listen to conversations and then they pipe in, we're missing that level of interaction. We're missing the creativity that can spur inside an office environment. I was with some business leaders the other day, and it's quite an interesting, I don't know what your company's position is, whether they're expecting people back in the office or not, or they're going to allow people to continue to work remote if they do so, if they so want to. But what this one business owner was saying is the ones that are now back in the office that typically would not have stood out. So before, these people were just people in the office. Whereas now, because they've actually taken the choice to go back to the office environment where he's now in, he's noticing the people that are returned to the office. So obviously when he needs things doing, he's using the people that are present and not the people that have decided to stay remote. So he's actually finding quality, finding good things, good people, because they've come back to the office. And he was saying it's going to end up where, you know, we have this double level. These are the ones who came back in, but they're the ones who are doing all the stuff, because they're the ones that we're actually noticing, because they're actually physically in the physical office environment. I think, you know, video conferencing, we were talking about it earlier, I think, Abby. I think it fits for it fits for those meetings where people would have to come a long way, or that ad hoc. But it'll be interesting to see what businesses do moving forward. How much pressure is there going to be on people returning to the office space? And it's an interesting one. I know at the university, they've been told, if you feel comfortable, come back to the office. When in reality, what they're trying to say is, we want you all back to the office. But they're doing it in such a nice way. Yeah, Craig?
Yeah, sorry, we had that culturally of our team in Sweden, where the Swedish culture is that your group harmony is quite important. You never say directly or strongly, you never call someone out. That's absolutely not okay. Yeah. So it was told to the people, now that COVID is down to a certain level, the government is blah, blah, blah. Of course, the work from home can continue. However, you need to get special permission from your boss, which sort of equals to, yeah, unless you've got a real reason, no one's going to get special permission approved. So you're back in the office from Monday, you know.
Yeah, and you can't call people out. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting time, very interesting time, because I know my interaction with finance at the university for the last 18 months has been Zoom calls, Teams calls, and email. Whereas before, I would just wander in and say, there's a problem with this invoice. What do we want to do about it? How are we going to structure it? Now it's a case of, can I call you? When are you free? We need to have a discussion about something. And then I'm waiting for them to come back. Now, the beauty of tools like Teams and WhatsApp and WeChat is, I know you're sat there because it's showing a green dot. I know you've received my message because it tells me you've viewed it. So now it's pretty clear.
On Teams, does it show if someone's
you get a tick. So you get a circle and there's a icon that comes up. Let me just see if I've got one. Yeah, so if you post something in, okay. So if you post something in, it knows that the people in it's been sent. And you see a little dot with a thing on when they're reading it.
Right.
So it's, I know you've received my message. Why are you ignoring my phone call? So
yeah, it does get like that. It's like with friendships. If your friend doesn't WhatsApp you back immediately, but you can see that they've read it, you start to become paranoid, thinking, why are they not messaging me back?
Back to
and
the
it's the same in work, isn't it?
Your
think,
brain,
what are they doing? Are they skiving? Are they taking a really long lunch break? Where even are they? Are they at home? Are they somewhere else?
Your brain starts filling in the gaps, which can cause a problem further down the road.
Yeah.
Because they haven't responded to your communication. Or they might have read your communication and thought, well, what does Abby mean by that? She sent me that to see if I'm working.
I mean, I asked my team to keep their calendars up to date because we've always been taught to do that. And I like it. I like to see where people are at. But I don't know. I feel that my new starters are thinking that there's a level of mistrust there because we're not in an office together. But I need to know where they are because of safety and lone work policy and stuff.
So this is the communicating the reason we keep our calendars up to date is because it's safety, it's concern, it's not me checking up you know, the university for years never had the ability to look at people's calendars. Well, nobody updated the calendars, and they put in, we want you all to use your calendars. And people were like, well, no, because I don't want you to see, because what you're doing is you're booking in me for a meeting because you can see a blank spot in my calendar, but actually I've got loads of marking to get done. So they then switched to, look, just put in your calendar that you are doing something. So people can see you're not available. And it's just, go on, Craig, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I have to do with the time zone difference, that, you know, block time in my calendar that people can see, okay, I'm not available this time because I'm preparing for something, or, you know, I've got this activity I have to get done.
Yeah.
And then leave gaps where I can so that they can schedule a talk or, you know, a quick catch up or a meeting if they need. But otherwise they will, every spare space of your calendar will get filled by someone for something.
Yeah. And you don't particularly want them phoning you when you're asleep.
No, that's the other problem.
We've had to, so Teams has caused a major problem because most of us, our computers at home in our offices, we leave them, I leave mine turned on. So Teams is always on. And wives, partners don't particularly like you getting a call at 1 o'clock in the morning because the student in China thinks, because I'm awake, you're awake. So it, you know, it's we have to lay rules down. We have to communicate why you don't call me at 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, you can phone me between these hours. But it is, you know, we've got to, and we're gonna be doing this whether we like it or not. We are still going to be doing online meetings and carry out activities using the tools. It would be a real shame if the last 18 months of using technology in the way we've had to, actually people go, well, yeah, that was for then. We're going to go back to the old ways. It needs to be a mixed environment now where it works for these situations, but actually, no, we'd like you all in for this day so we can gel as a team and we can talk about some of the bigger aspects of a project, or what are we doing next, so we can communicate to you why the business is doing this. But if we look at so typical tools, okay, typical tools, your IMs, you know, minutes and hours, okay, phones, IMs, video conferencing, email spreads across weeks, chatting about subjects, doc management systems. When we've got the document sorted, we lock it away, SharePoint, different tools fit different situations for the amount of time we use them. Obviously, you know, Google Docs, getting feedback, just simple tools we can use. Slack, and yeah, I saw your chat. Slack is a simplified Jira. It's actually part of Atlassian, which is a bigger project management tools. Yeah, I'd agree with that totally, Craig, what you've just sent on chat. Yeah, we need to make a team communication charter, which tools we use for what activities, okay, and at what times we can use the asynchronous, because it, you know, it's now part of how we work. You know, when we started to get like social media coming into businesses suddenly realized, we need to have a policy as to how we behave, how we act on social media. Probably when Teams and video conferencing came in 18 months ago, in as much as it did, you probably had discussions in your business as to how you are expected to behave on a Teams meeting. Is there a standard of dress that is acceptable on a Teams meeting? All of these type of things. And we're probably at the point now that, okay, how are we going to handle these tools moving forward? What tools do we use and in which situations? Because, you know, in audit, being able to show, well, this decision was made, you don't really want to have to cover yourself by, well, I know I've got it somewhere, but I've just got to locate it in the chat that's gone back 6 months because that's when the decision was made. So getting feedback, writing documents, communication tools, Slack, connection tools, Trello, simple, straightforward project management, deeper discussion, video conferencing, and then secure sharing of documents, tools like Dropbox or SharePoint, whatever fits your organization. We've sort of covered this, you're using the Teams type stuff. Okay, obviously Zoom, simple. You will drop into Zoom, Abby, because it's easier. Okay. Where, you know, some organizations, and I imagine Craig, you're pretty locked down to what tool you can use.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some organizations don't have the privilege to do that and ability to do it because it's not within the base of technology for the business. Now, I find Zoom's a lot easier to use for one reason. It's a lot easier to get people into Zoom. The university is Teams because the university are paranoid about GDPR. The fact that that student will have his name and email address in another system. We can't have that, apparently. There are limitations to it now. Trello, straightforward project management, Slack for discussions. Okay, you can build communication platforms. The key to it is having something which is integrated. So you have access to files, so you can share them easily. You can see people and talk. You can take notes. We have a much better way of distributing information instead of always attaching it to an email. So we share links into SharePoint or document stores or into a file folder inside a Teams environment. Okay, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring a better level of management and increase the productivity of how we work. So having a platform in which we do that. So, you know, using the whole base of technology and working out where these fit. What situations, how do we use it, and what policies need to be put in place. You know, we have simple ones with students for our Teams meetings. Mute your mics unless you have a question to ask, because typically there'll be something going on behind them where they're sat listening. Always remember that if you do have your camera on, that there's people moving around behind you. So be aware of who else is in the room with you. You know, how to message us and what to do. Okay, I'm not going to show you tools because you've used these tools for so long. There are alternative tools out there. Video, Teams, Ring Central, Skype for Business works extremely well. Messaging, lots of messaging tools, lots of task tools, lots of document creation tools. You're well embedded in what you're using. Just make sure everybody is using the same tools and same platforms, because it will help you with gathering the information at a later stage. Okay, that's me finished with what we were going to go through. Just going to go through what Digital Catalyst is and how it can help you. Not sure it can help you if you're still in Japan, Craig.
Yeah. Yeah.
But obviously for Abby, you're in the right well, Humber. It's a program for Humber. Okay. They have a lot of webinars, so you're in the realms of getting learning for your apprenticeship. So this will open up, he says, hopefully. Where's it gone? There. Okay. So you can go on the Grow My SME/events link, and in there they have loads of events that you can book onto.
So you don't have to live or work in the Humber.
I believe you can take advantage of these without being in Humber. They also have a series of masterclasses. Don't know if it's on here. No. So they have masterclasses on various different technologies. I think there's one on cyber. There's definitely one on e-commerce, because that's the one I'm running. And the masterclasses are through the Skills Council. And you can book on those from anywhere in the world. But if you email in to Grow My SME, they'll tell you what masterclasses and what webinars are available. But it's a great way to get online learning, the self-learning, to
Cool.
upskill yourself. Okay. Obviously, they do one-to-one support. You're in Lancashire, so I wouldn't expect this works for you. And Craig is in Japan, so I don't think it will work for him. So all the good things you can get on there, you can't have, unless there's a program in Lancashire or Japan. Okay. But effectively, it's, you know, anything to do with where technology fits in the organization. So it can be anything. It could be helping you understand how simple project management tools work. Creating that policy for how you're going to use social media. It could be you've got a client management system. We don't think we're using it right. Could somebody help us understand what our client process is, and then how we can match that much better inside the tool? So anything to do with technology exploitation. So the type of things I've worked with: moving to cloud, infrastructures, e-commerce, online accounting, CRM, cybersecurity, all of that. And this is what we do. Obviously, we can't do it with you, so I'm not going to label it on the slide. Support available. We do a benchmark. We then do we route you to expert support, bring an expert in who does a digital plan, helps you find people to help you, and helps you select technology providers. And that would be their telephone number. But if you call them, they'll tell you, you know, what masterclasses and what webinars are coming up. Because you've managed to book on this one, so you can book on any of the courses on their website.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Don't think so. That's been really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd second that. I mean, a lot of good information there. I think I liked a lot of the research bits there that were showing from the different generations, their sort of say preferences and other things. That was very good. I especially like the picture that had the sustainability against duration and collaboration, you know, for the different methods or different channels. That was very good.
That's a really, really old model, that one, but it is true when you start thinking about it. How these tools fit. And if you think about it logically, you wouldn't want to be on a video conference call that's lasting days.
No.
Okay.
I have those assessments. We do it online for 5 days from morning to evening, and yeah, it's a long week.
It's hard. I'm nearly always giving them, so I'm nearly always talking start to finish. lectures and the webinars and the master classes. And then even working with clients, I'm doing most of the talking about, okay, we can do this, we can do that, and trying to fathom out from them. It must be hard sat listening and keeping engaged.
Yeah.
When you're in a meeting and somebody's presenting something to you, or you're having to listen to a talk. And I think that's the hard part we don't take into consideration when we think actually we can move a lot of what we do to the online environment. We don't think about, but people's attention span, they're easily distracted. You've got to keep them. I did a lecture the other week on reputation management, and I happened to be in the lecture room with the students, and they had Amazon wouldn't let their students come face to face. They're still not letting them engage. So they were blended. And when you're stood in the lecture room and you've got like 15 people in front of you and you've got like 4 online, you have to physically in your head remember, I'm not just talking to these people, I'm talking to some online. So you have to keep engaging with them. And the lady who followed me, I think she tested, or she was quarantining. So she'd been away and quarantining, so she couldn't go to the university to give a lecture. So she gave her lecture remotely to the class and the ones online. She really struggled because she was following somebody who's just been face to face with them. So within like 20 minutes, she'd lost everybody in the room because it was just slides and no sort of physical interaction and going and dropping and asking them questions because you can see their faces. I think it's going to be really interesting time for business. From my perspective, doing collaboration in 1993 to do design for cars using these technologies. And now we're actually using it. We're using it really well. But that's a big gap of time before, okay, we were researching it then. And some companies picked it up. But 18 months ago, it's a case of if you didn't start picking this up, that's it. Companies where every single file is on a server inside the office and they have no way of remotely accessing. Now, buying webcams last March when we went online, 2 months earlier, you get a webcam for like 20 quid. The only webcam I could buy is some Logitech professional thing because you just couldn't buy them. So it's an interesting time for businesses. Just got to find out how you're going to use it. Okay.